slaps.
Imagine a single word, a word so universal, so instantly understood that you don't even need a translation. A word that has been used to humiliate kings, to celebrate champions, to describe music, to define a sport, and to express the highest form of compliment. That word is slap. And today we're going to trace its complete history, from its mysterious medieval origins all the way to the viral internet phenomenon it has become in the 21st century. This is the story you never knew you needed. Before we talk about the act, let's talk about the word. The word slap first appeared in written English in 1632, but historians believe it was in common spoken use well before that. Where did it come from? Most linguists agree it's an onomatopoeia. The word itself sounds like the action, slap, the sharp, flat, smacking sound of an open palm against skin. It shares its beginning, that sla sound, with other violent English words, slash, slam, slay. This pattern is no accident. In linguistics, we call this a phonous theme, where similar sounds carry similar meanings. The word also traces back to Low German, slappa, and is connected to the German word schlappe, which means defeat or setback. By the mid-1400s, the word had entered Middle English to describe a smart blow with the open hand or something flat. And by 1736, over 300 years ago, the word slap had already evolved beyond its physical meaning. It was being used figuratively, as a metaphor for insult, for reprimand, for emotional pain. A slap in the face no longer required an actual hand. Before we talk about the act, let's talk about the word. The word slap first appeared in written English in 1632, but historians believe it was in common spoken use well before that. Where did it come from? Most linguists agree it's an onomatopoeia. The word itself sounds like the action, slap, the sharp, flat, smacking sound of an open palm against skin. It shares its beginning, that sla sound, with other violent English words, slash, slam, slay. This pattern is no accident. In linguistics, we call this a phonous theme, where similar sounds carry similar meanings. The word also traces back to Low German, slappa, and is connected to the German word schlappe, which means defeat or setback. By the mid-1400s, the word had entered Middle English to describe a smart blow with the open hand or something flat. And by 1736, over 300 years ago, the word slap had already evolved beyond its physical meaning. It was being used figuratively, as a metaphor for insult, for reprimand, for emotional pain. A slap in the face no longer required an actual hand. But a word is just a word. The act of slapping, now that has a history of its own. Slapping, or striking someone with the open palm, has existed as long as human civilization, but its meaning has shifted dramatically across time and culture. In medieval Europe, slapping carried profound social weight. A slap on the cheek was not just violence, it was a declaration, a formal challenge, a statement that you had been dishonored and demanded justice. This is where the tradition of the duel begins. One man slaps another, and blood is the only answer. In other traditions, the slap meant something entirely different. Anthropologist Desmond Morris described what he called the cheek slap, a woman's classic response to unwanted male advances. Not to injure, not to wound, but to humiliate, to make the aggressor feel the weight of their own behavior. Some cultures have even incorporated the slap into ritual and ceremony. In parts of India, a slap is used as a political statement, a way of publicly shaming a public figure. In certain traditions, a mother slaps her daughter on the cheek when she reaches womanhood for the first time, a gesture meant to prepare her for the hardships of life. The slap is never just a slap. It is always a message. Now, here's where things get funny. Literally, the slap gave birth to an entire genre of comedy. You know it as slapstick. But where did that word come from? In 16th century Italy, a form of theater called commedia dell'arte featured a special prop, a wooden club made of two flat slats. When an actor hit another actor with it, it made an enormous slap sound. Dramatic, loud, shocking. But here's the trick. The force transferred was almost nothing. The victim felt barely a thing. The audience heard thunder, but the actor felt a whisper. This device was called the batacchio, and in English it became known as the slapstick. From this one prop, an entire art form was born. Shakespeare used physical comedy in his plays. By the 1800s, it had taken over British pantomime and music halls. And then came Hollywood. Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges. These legends built careers on the language of the slap, on falls, chases, and perfectly timed physical chaos. The pie in the face, the banana peel, the bucket of water, all descendants of a simple wooden stick that went slap.
Now let's talk about music. The slap didn't just enter comedy, it entered the groove. In the early 1900s, in the jazz clubs of New Orleans, double bassists began experimenting. Instead of using their bows, or gentle plucking, they started hitting the strings hard, pulling them back and letting them snap against the neck of the instrument. This technique is generally credited to William Bill Johnson, who allegedly invented it on stage when his bow broke during a performance in Louisiana. With no other option, he started hitting the strings by hand, and the audience loved it. From New Orleans jazz, the technique traveled through swing music, rockabilly, where Elvis Presley's bassist Bill Black used it, and eventually into funk. And then came Larry Graham. Playing bass for Sly and the Family Stone in the 1960s, Graham developed what he called thumping and plucking, a style where you thump the strings downward with your thumb and pop them with your fingers. This became modern slap bass. By the 1970s and 80s, every serious funk and R&B bassist was slapping. Bootsy Collins, Marcus Miller, Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. A broken bow in Louisiana had started a musical revolution, from music to combat. Because at some point in history, someone decided that slapping other people competitively was a sport. And they were not entirely wrong. Slap fighting originated in the underground competition circuits of Eastern Europe. The rules were brutally simple. Two men stand across from each other. One slaps. The other must take it. No blocking, no flinching, no stepping back. Then they switch. The contests spread. Organized leagues began appearing in Poland and the United States around 2017. Then the internet found them. Viral compilations of massive men hitting each other across the face gathered millions of views. One fighter in particular became a legend, Russian competitor Vasily "Dumpling" Kamatsky, whose devastating slapping power turned him into an unlikely internet superstar. During COVID-19, when most sports were shut down, slap fighting exploded online. Simple, raw, accessible. No equipment, no ring, no complicated rules. In 2022, slap fighting received a significant moment of mainstream recognition when it appeared at Arnold Schwarzenegger's Arnold Sports Classic. Then, in 2023, UFC President Dana White launched Power Slap, bringing the sport to American television on TBS. The sport remains controversial. Critics question its safety, but no one questions that it works as entertainment. A peasant game from Eastern Europe had found its way to prime time. So there you have it, the complete story of slap. A word born from sound, a gesture that shaped culture, a technique that transformed music, a sport that conquered the internet, and a slang term that conquered language itself. The slap has been an insult, a ritual, a punchline, a bass note, and a compliment, all in the same four letters. And perhaps that is its greatest lesson. The same act can mean something completely different, depending on the context, the culture, and the century you're standing. If you found this history fascinating, hit that subscribe button, because we make more videos just like this one, digging deep into the hidden histories of everyday things you've never thought to question. Leave a comment below. What word or topic do you want us to explore next? I'll see you in the next one.